Hello there, I'm Black Bright News, and as you know, I love to decode the headlines. And Monday's headlines said, police ordered to arrive at crime scene in 15 minutes as British FBI comes into force. And I'm like, ooh, what's that about? So the headline promises speed, but it is really about structure, control, and optics in an age where policing no longer looks like we think it does. The uncomfortable truth is that technology has outpaced policing structures, but public expectations haven't caught up. People still want a human being to turn up when something frightening happens, even if the crime itself is solved later by data. And that's where pressure creeps in. You end up measuring the thing that looks good on a headline, not necessarily the thing that reduces crime. The claim is that police are being ordered to arrive at crime scenes within 15 minutes, while the Home Office is also announcing a new national crime-fighting force branded the British FBI for offences such as shoplifting, phone theft and drug dealing. At first glance, it sounds like a tough, practical response to everyday crime. These are the things people actually experience. So the instinct to act makes sense. And when you hold these three offences together, shoplifting, phone theft and drug dealing, you can see why the response starts to feel a little inflated. A bit heavy-handed, wouldn't you say? Two of these crimes are opportunistic and local. One of them isn't. Shoplifting and phone theft are familiar, visible, repetitive. They often happen in front of cameras, witnesses, shop staff, commuters. They're irritating, destabilising, and often unresolved. The public frustration isn't about mystery, it's about the sense that reporting them leads to nowhere. Drug dealing is different, not morally but structurally. Once the government puts drug dealing in the picture, the narrative shifts from nuisance crime to organised harm. From isolated incidents to networks, from local disorder to national concern. And that, of course, justifies a much heavier response. Here's the thing, most visible drug dealing that people encounter day to day is still local. Street level supply, known faces, known spots. It's not usually complex to identify. What's difficult is dismantling what sits behind it. The supply chains, the money flows, the coercion, the repeat offending. So again, the problem hasn't been detection. It's been capacity, follow-through and sustained enforcement. That's why the 15-minute headline promise stands out. 15 minutes isn't about solving crime. It's about being seen to respond. It's about restoring a sense of order in the moment. A police car arriving quickly sends a signal. This space is being watched. This behaviour is being challenged. You're not on your own. That matters emotionally. People want immediate reassurance when something frightening or disabling happens near them. But reassurance and resolution are not the same thing. We already live in a heavily monitored environment. Cameras are everywhere. Retail theft is recorded before someone leaves the shop. Phones are hacked or tracked more easily than the people who steal them. Drug dealing hotspots are often well known long before any action is taken. Technology already does much of the identifying. The bottleneck is what happens next. So when policy focuses on speed rather than systems, it's revealing its priority. This is about presence, not processing. Optics, not infrastructure. And this is where the Home Office comes in. When the Home Office speaks, it usually signals centralisation, a move away from local discretion towards national oversight. The phrase British FBI isn't a technical description, it's a message. It borrows authority from an image of coordination, intelligence and strength. That makes sense for serious organised crime. It makes sense for large-scale drug networks, cybercrime, fraud and cross-border operations. It makes much less sense when it's announced in the same breath as shoplifting and stolen phones. So what's happening is not that these crimes suddenly require national architecture, it's that they're being grouped together to support a broader narrative of control. Drug dealing allows the escalation. Shoplifting and phone theft supply the emotional urgency. Together, they create justification for faster response targets and stronger central power. This is about borders in a wider sense, the borders of authority, responsibility, and accountability. Who decides what matters? Who sets the targets? Who absorbs the pressure when those targets aren't met? A 15-minute rule sounds concrete, but it's actually slippery. 15 minutes where? For what? For which incidents? At what times? For what areas? With what staffing levels? And what happens when it becomes unworkable? Targets have consequences. When response time becomes the headline metric, other work is quietly squeezed. Deep investigations don't fit neatly into stopwatches. Prevention doesn't show up in arrival logs. Long-term disruption of drug supply chains doesn't deliver instant reassurance. And this is where the technology contradiction becomes unavoidable. We already rely on systems that outperform humans at certain tasks. Pattern recognition, linking incidents, tracking repeat behaviour. The future of crime reduction isn't faster driving, it's smarter triage and consistent follow-through. But those things are harder to explain in a headline. Speed is simple. 15 minutes is easy to visualise. A British FBI sounds decisive. It creates a sense of momentum, even if the policies underneath are doing very different jobs. So what we're really seeing here isn't a unified solution. It's a stitched together message designed to calm public anxiety about disorder. That doesn't mean the concerns are fake. They're real. People are tired of feeling like low-level crime is tolerated. They're tired of locked cabinets, stolen phones, open dealing, and the sense that reporting things is pointless. But the risk is a mismatch between local crimes and national solutions, between reassurance and effectiveness, between how crime is actually dealt with and how policing is publicly performed. If the goal is to reduce shoplifting and phone theft, consistency and consequences matter more than arrival times. If the goal is to tackle drug dealing, long-term intelligence and disruption matter more than speed. And if the goal is to restore confidence, then honesty about what policing can and can't do in a technological age matters more than any stopwatch. So when you hear 15 minutes and British FBI, ask what problem is it really trying to solve and what work is being done quietly off camera while the spotlight stays on speed. That's where the real story lies. What I've been talking about is commentary based on public reported policy proposals and media coverage. It does not claim operational certainty and is intended to analyse framing priorities and implications rather than assert enacted law or guaranteed outcomes. So yeah, when I saw that story, I'm like, whoa, what is this really about? Getting to a place in 15 minutes. Is it 15 minutes to solve the crime? Is it just being present for 15 minutes? What does 15 minutes even mean? 15 minutes is quite a long time anyway. And also there's a 10-second rule in answering the phone. I tell you something, the police are going to be under serious pressure. And what will that mean? Will it mean pulling in the army or pulling in different reserves in order to get the work done, in order to meet targets? The police are already under pressure. When they're under pressure, does that mean they're going to behave irrationally, get irritated, feel resentful, and then the civilians take the brunt of those attitudes? You know, the government means well, but they have to think about the well-being of the police officers. And Home Office taking over, that's a serious move. one we'll have to watch. And that's all on Black Bright News. Over and out. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.